You know, it's funny. We all spend so much of our lives chasing this feeling happiness.
Yeah.
It's this universal goal, right? But if you really stop and think about it, what is it exactly? And is our like constant striving actually getting us any closer?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? This elusive thing we call happiness.
Totally.
So today we're taking a deep dive into a really interesting discussion from the EDP English Dialogue podcast over on YouTube.
Okay.
Specifically, their video, Pursuit of Happiness. They had some, great perspectives, and we wanted to unpack those, explore what happiness means, how we try to find it, and maybe whether that very act of pursuing it can sometimes trip us up.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start right there then. What does happiness even look like? I mean, it feels so different for everyone.
It really does.
Maybe for you, it's like financial security. For someone else, it's the warmth of family or hitting a big personal goal or even just that quiet sense of contentment.
Absolutely. It's this
Yeah.
incredibly personal landscape. And what's fascinating, and something the source we looked at touched on, is how psychology often tries to, well, map this out. They talk about two fundamental types: hedonic and eudaimonic happiness.
Hedonic and eudaimonic. Okay, right. Those sound important. Break that down for us a bit.
For sure. So think of hedonic happiness as the joy that comes from pleasure. It's that immediate yes feeling, savoring your favorite food, the buzz of a vacation, getting something new. It's really tied to that instant gratification.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. That's the kind of happiness you can almost taste. Yeah. Like that first sip of really good coffee in the morning.
Exactly like that. Now, eudaimonic happiness,
Mm-hmm.
it's a different kind of feeling. It's
Mm.
deeper. It's about purpose, fulfillment.
Okay.
Imagine the satisfaction of finally achieving a really tough long-term goal you poured your heart into, or that genuinely good feeling you get from helping someone else. It's linked to long-term meaning.
So one's like a quick spark, maybe, and the other's more of a slow burn, a steady warmth from meaning. The source mentioned that a good life often involves both, right? A
Well,
balance.
precisely. Yeah, they suggested that real well-being isn't just chasing those highs, those hedonic moments. You need that underlying sense of purpose, the eudaimonic part, to give life real depth,
Mm.
which brings us to a really interesting idea they raised. Does constantly trying to be happy actually make us happier? Or could it, inadvertently create more stress, more dissatisfaction?
That's a real head scratcher. The pursuit of happiness. It almost sounds like we're always reaching for something just out of grasp, like trying to catch smoke or something.
That's the core of the paradox, yeah.
Yeah.
The source highlighted that when we treat happiness as this, like future destination, something we'll finally get once we tick certain boxes.
Like I'll be happy when I get the promotion or
Exactly. Or when I lose 10 pounds, or when I buy the house, we can actually set ourselves up for disappointment. Because what happens when we get there?
yeah, the initial excitement fades pretty quick usually. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I did the thing. Now what? You just feel normal again.
Exactly. And this is where that concept of the hedonic treadmill comes in, something the source also brought up. We humans, we're remarkably adaptable creatures.
Mm-hmm.
We get used to new achievements, new possessions, surprisingly fast. That initial burst of joy wears off, and then we're kind of looking for the next thing to give us that same feeling.
Right. It's like upgrading your phone every year. The new one feels great for a week, but then
Then it's just your phone, yeah.
Yeah.
The underlying satisfaction level
Mm.
doesn't necessarily keep climbing long term.
so constantly chasing those external markers, money, status, things, it might just be like running on a hamster wheel.
That's a good way to put it. And this really underscores the vital difference between where we look for happiness externally, in things and achievements,
Yeah.
or internally, within ourselves.
Okay.
And what really stood out from the source was this idea that the internal wellspring of happiness is, well, it's just more sustainable.
Right. So what does this internal happiness actually look like day to day? Are we talking about things like self-acceptance, being okay with yourself, gratitude?
Exactly those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. If our happiness relies too much on external factors,
Mm-hmm.
wealth, status, even other people's approval,
Yeah.
it's inherently shaky, isn't it? Those things can change. They can disappear.
It's true.
But internal happiness, the kind rooted in our mindset, how we see things, our perspective,
Mm-hmm.
that's much more resilient. The source used that powerful contrast.
Mm.
You see incredibly wealthy people who are just deeply unhappy.
Yeah, you hear about that.
And then you see others, maybe with very little materially, who just radiate contentment. It really makes you pause and think about where happiness actually comes from.
It really does. It kind of flips the script. It's not just about what you have, it's about how you are inside.
Absolutely. And this is where practices like mindfulness, Really being present in the moment, not lost in thought, and maybe keeping a gratitude journal can be so powerful.
How so?
Well, they actively train us to cultivate that internal state. They shift our focus to what we already have, to the present experience, rather than always yearning for something else, something more, something in the future.
So, like, really noticing the taste of your food instead of just gulping it down while scrolling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or fully listening in a conversation instead of planning what you'll say next. It's about finding the richness in the everyday, the
Yeah.
small things we often just rush past. That feels much more grounded, right?
Definitely more grounded. Okay, so that's the internal piece. Now, another huge part the source highlighted was relationships. It sounded like that's almost a non-negotiable ingredient.
It really is. The source emphasized that tons of research, just consistently, points to the huge impact of strong social connections on our happiness.
Which makes sense, intuitively.
Totally. We're social beings deep down. We're wired for connection. Those bonds, family, friends, community, they give us that sense of belonging, that support system. It's fundamental.
Yeah, just knowing you have people in your corner, people you can actually lean on when things get tough, that changes how you feel about everything, doesn't it?
It really does. And the source made a really key distinction, too. It's not just about the number of friends or contacts you have.
Right, it's the quality.
Exactly, the quality.
Yeah.
It's not about having, thousands of followers online or this huge network of just acquaintances. It's about nurturing those deeper, more meaningful relationships.
The people you can really trust, who support you, who you can just be yourself with.
Precisely. Even one or two really close, supportive relationships can make a massive positive difference to your overall happiness.
That's such a good reminder, especially now with, everything online. It's so easy to feel connected, but maybe not get that real emotional nourishment.
Right. That digital connection has its place, for sure, for keeping in touch, but it doesn't always replace that deeper support you get from, a real conversation face-to-face or just spending quality time together.
So prioritizing that, investing time in those real-world connections, that's crucial.
Absolutely crucial for genuine happiness, according to the source.
Okay, so we've got internal happiness, we've got relationships. What about purpose? Having a sense of purpose, the source mentioned that too, and it feels like another really key piece of this whole puzzle.
Absolutely. And this ties right back into that eudaimonic happiness we talked about earlier, that sense of meaning.
Ah,
When we feel like we have a purpose, it gives us direction, motivation. It's a reason to get up in the morning, something to strive for. And it builds resilience, too. Helps us get through the tough times.
yeah, it's like having a why, a feeling that your life matters somehow, beyond just the day-to-day grind. And the source pointed out, importantly, I think, that this purpose doesn't have to be some huge world-changing thing, right?
Exactly right. It can be found in the everyday. It might be being a really engaged parent or volunteering locally or even just pursuing a hobby you're truly passionate about, something that lights you up.
So it's about finding what feels meaningful to you. Doesn't matter how big or small it looks to anyone else.
Precisely. That's the key. And when you're driven by that internal sense of purpose, the source suggests it leads to a much deeper, more lasting kind of fulfillment than just chasing those fleeting hedonic highs.
Building a life that feels meaningful rather than just a series of enjoyable moments. Okay.
Exactly. Now, the source we looked at, the EDP podcast, they also offer some really practical, actionable steps, things you, our listener, can actually try incorporating into your life to potentially boost your happiness.
Oh, great. Actionable tips. Let's hear them. What can we actually do?
Okay, first one, practicing gratitude. We touched on it, but the simple act of regularly noting down things you're thankful for, even small things, can really train your brain to spot the good stuff.
Yeah, it's so easy to focus on what's wrong, consciously looking for the good. That can be a real mindset shift. Okay, what else?
Spending time in nature. They highlighted how even short periods outdoors can really boost your mood and your sense of well-being.
I totally feel that. There's just something restorative about being outside, isn't there? Even a quick walk in a park can change your whole outlook sometimes.
Definitely. And then there's exercise, good old physical activity.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fantastic mood booster, releases endorphins, makes you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And the source even mentioned, something as simple as a brisk walk counts. It makes a difference.
That's good news. You don't have to run a marathon. Every little bit helps.
Exactly. Another key one they discussed was mindfulness, that practice of consciously focusing your attention on the present moment without judgment.
Okay.
It helps quiet that, like mental noise, reduces stress, and increases happiness just by letting us fully be in the moment we're actually living.
So really tasting your lunch, really listening to the person talking to you, really feeling the water in the shower. It sounds simple, but
It can be surprisingly hard, but yeah, incredibly rewarding when you practice it. It can be transformative.
okay. What's the last one?
And finally, circling back, they emphasized investing in your relationships,
Yeah,
making the time, putting in the effort to connect with friends, family. That's a cornerstone.
absolutely. Nurturing those connections. It keeps coming back to that, doesn't it?
It really does.
So, okay, to kind of wrap this all up,
Yeah.
it sounds like the big message from the source material is that happiness isn't really about this frantic chase for some, I don't know, elusive grand prize.
Right.
It's more about cultivating joy in the small things, the everyday stuff, strengthening our connections with people, and living a life that feels purposeful, meaningful to us.
Precisely. That sums it up well. And they offered a really important dose of self-compassion, too. It's okay not to be happy all the time.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, right. Happiness isn't a constant state. It ebbs and flows naturally. The key is more about embracing the whole journey, learning from the downs as well as enjoying the ups, and finding a sense of contentment in the process overall.
That's a really comforting thought. Takes the pressure off trying to maintain some kind of perfect bliss constantly. Now, just to make sure we're clear on some terms we use, the source also defined a few key ones.
Yes, good idea.
Yeah.
So, contentment. Basically being satisfied, at peace with what you have.
Okay.
Fulfillment.
Yeah.
That deep satisfaction from achieving something meaningful or realizing your potential.
Got it.
Gratitude. Simply feeling thankful, showing appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
Mindfulness,
Mm-hmm.
being fully present right here, right now, without distraction or judgment.
Right.
And hedonic,
Yeah.
that just relates to pleasure, enjoyment, often the more short-lived kind.
Really helpful to have those pinned down. So, to you, our listener, we really hope this deep dive into the pursuit of happiness has given you some valuable food for thought for your own life.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe as you continue on your own path, perhaps
Yeah.
consider this. Which aspect of happiness is it? The hedonic moments, the eudaimonic purpose, that internal calm,
Yeah.
the warmth of relationships, maybe something else entirely, which one resonates most strongly with you right now?
Mm.
And maybe, just maybe, what's one small intentional step you could take, perhaps even today, to nurture that aspect just a little bit more in your own journey? Remember, it's a process. And we hope you find plenty of joy and meaning along the way.